Hi everyone, once again I'm welcoming you back on Aavriti. This is Rajiv, and as promised earlier, I'll be taking the buttons tutorial to the next level, and here is a different button which I have created. If I hover on top of this button, you will see that this also animates. Unlike the first button we have created in the previous tutorial where it was just changing the color. So I have already made this for you, and first we will just dissect it and then understand what is going underneath it, and then we will recreate it from scratch. So let's just investigate it, and we can do so by double clicking on this button. Let's just select the button and we can see in the properties panel it is a button. So let's double click on it to go inside to the buttons timeline, and here is the complicated stuff, but it's not that complicated. I am assuring you, if you just pay attention for next 1.5 minutes, you would understand what I'm talking about, and it's very easy to understand. So I have three layers here: base, text, and animation. So the name says it all. The base layer has, I'll just hide these two so that we can focus on the bottom layer. The base layer has a simple rectangle which builds up the base of our button. So on the upstage it has a comparatively lighter gray color, and when it goes to the overstage that gray color darkens, and on the downstage it's back to the same color which is there on the upstage. So that's it in the base. I'll just hide the base and enable the text. Oh sorry, enable the text layer here. Now in the text layer, the same text is continued from upstage to overstage and downstage, and no color has been changed. Also, you can also change the color of the text if you feel like doing it by adding keyframes on the overstage and downstage. I leave it to you people. Now if I switch on the third layer, the very top layer, animation, now here things will be a little tough to understand, but I'll just break it into chunks for you people. I have two stages defined on the animation layer. The very first one is up and the second one is over. So up stage is more of a static thing. Here is a movie clip which does not have any animation on it, because let's test the movie and then check it. Now as long as it is on the upstage, there is no interaction with mouse right now. So till this point of time I have this overlay of this black shape on top of that button. The moment the cursor interacts with this button, see, it retracts back, the animation plays. So on the upstage I have this shape basically, which is a movie clip. I'll just go inside it and then I'll show you what I have done here. So I have two layers here and I have two different rectangles. I'll just switch it off. I have this shape, and this shape is masked by a rectangle. Now it's not required to mask it here, because even without the mask it will just work fine. So even if I just delete the mask and make sure that the shape is exactly the same size, that this area is truncated, now what I can do, I can bring on the guidelines. Control Alt Shift R for bringing in the guidelines. I'll drag up a guideline and just leave it here, and then I'll switch it off on, and then just delete this piece, and without the mask even we can work with it. That's fine, but we'll be requiring the masking in the overstage for sure, because when I animate this shape towards its right, it shouldn't show itself as if it is peeping out of the button. That's the purpose here. So if I test the movie, visibly no difference you would see, even though I have got rid of the mask on the up layer, and I deliberately kept it up because I wanted to show it to you that it can be done without even masking on the upstage. But however, the overstage is going to have a different situation. So let's switch to the overstage, and I have a movie clip here as well. And if I go inside, notice the movie clip timeline has three different layers, and the bottom layer, the very bottom layer, layer 2, is indented compared to layer 1, because this is the layer which is being masked by layer 1. Now let's understand what's going here. So I'll just unlock this one and then switch it off, unlock this one, and see, this is the shape which we have, which you need to convert into a movie clip for animating it. And if you play the timeline, you will see that the animation is going here. And I have also applied 100 ease for making it swift. I'm hitting enter to check this. See, okay, so this animation, now without the mask, this will peep out of the button and it will expand the area of the button, which I don't want. So what I have done, I have applied a mask on top of it. This simple rectangular box acts as a mask. If I lock these two layers, only the content within the rectangle will be visible. So that's the concept of mask. If you want to understand and learn more about mask, I would suggest to check out my other videos on masking. I'll be soon enough uploading one on dedicated to masking only. And this is not just this is just one simple application of masking. We can do much more things with masking. Okay, so let's come back on topic here. And okay, this is how the mask work. I'll also demonstrate it from scratch. I'll build it up from scratch and I'll also explain while doing it. But first I just wanted you to understand how things are going behind the scene here in case of this button. And then I have this third layer named as action, which automatically got created when I applied the action stop at this frame from the code snippets. We will also talk about it in the demonstration just in a while, so stick to me on this. Okay, fine. So let's come back to symbol 1. So we have understood what is going inside this button, and if you test the movie, yep, everything works well, no issues, no harm, fine. So let's build it up from scratch. Now I really want your full attention here. I'll be making it from scratch, and please pay attention to every step I'm going through. So I'll make another layer on top of it, and on the layer 2 I'm going to build it up. So I'll just lock the layer 1 so accidentally I don't mess up with this one here. And we will start with the simple rectangle first. So okay, this is going to be my button. Let's just pull it down a little. Okay, I'll get rid of the outline. You can double click on it and hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of it. Now the rectangle is selected, and the very first thing is to do here to convert this into a button. Since we already have about us button, so now I'm going to create projects. Okay, now this name is only for referring it in the library, so it's okay to give it any name, that's fine. So I'll change it to button and then say okay. I'll go inside the buttons timeline. The very first thing is to set up the base layer. So I'll just rename it base, and then on the over stage I'll hit F6 to create another keyframe, and on the down as well I would say F6 to create another keyframe. On the over stage I'm going to change its color to a lighter color. Oh sorry, on the up stage I want it lighter actually, and on the over stage I want it darker, and on the down stage I again want it to be lighter. So this is the color transition we are trying to achieve. Fine. Now the next thing is to write text on it, and which we can do by creating another layer here, of course. So click on the new layer icon here and change it to text. Now I want the text to remain same throughout, so I'll just select any of these, and since the keyframe is continued already till down, so we shouldn't be worrying about where we are writing it. So either on up, over or down, all three says it is fine. It's going to be common for all three of them. So I'll create the text frame and then write projects. Perfect. And I'll just drop it down, try to align it with the left edge of the A, because I want a symmetrical result when it comes to aligning the text in relation with the button in my navigation. So let's change the color to white. Okay, now the next important and very important thing is here to hide this and create this shape. So what I'll do, I'll just take up this rectangle only which is at the back, say Control C on the keyboard to copy it, and create another layer on top of it, and we will call it animation, because that's the layer where I'm going to put all my animation. And the very first thing here we will do is to isolate the up stage by creating a blank keyframe there, and the shortcut for putting a blank keyframe is F7. So F7, the blank this, notice these two are linked like this. On the text layer we have a continuation of up stage till down. Here up is separate from over and down, and this is exactly how I want it to be. Okay, so on the up stage I'm going to paste the thing which I have copied from the base layer. So Control Shift V is the shortcut, because I want it to be placed exactly from where I copied it. That's why I have pressed Control Shift V instead of just Control V. Control Shift V is paste in place. Okay, so I have this rectangle ready here, no issues. Now the next thing is I also want this rectangle on the overstage. So what I'll do, I'll just preserve it by clicking here on the overstage and hitting F6 on the keyboard. So what that does basically, alright, I need to make a copy of it. So I'll hold Alt on the keyboard, click, and then drag it on the overstage so that I can have a copy of the upstage on the overstage. And the upstage only has this rectangle which I have copied from the base layer. So I have the same rectangle on the base layer, on the upstage, and on the overstage. Now we'll just change this upstage color. So we are going to change it into black, and now I'm going to transform it a little. So I'll click and then drag it. Now notice if I drag it from the side, the transformation is symmetrical from either of the sides. If you come into this kind of situation and you want it to transform from one side only, then you hold Alt on the keyboard and it will solve your problem. So I'm going to hide 2.5 letters here, just a little, okay. And I also need to change its shape. So I'll click it by selecting the sub selection tool. I'll click on the shape and then drag it like so. Okay, so this shape we have made. Now the next thing is I want to copy this, so Control C to copy it and come on the overstage. I have this rectangle already there in the place. I just need to convert this into a movie clip by hitting F8 on the keyboard so that I can have animation inside that movie clip. So I'll say F8 and then change it to a movie clip and then say okay. Let's go inside and then make another layer. We will drag this layer below layer 1 because layer 1, this rectangle, is going to be utilized as a mask. On the layer 2 I'm going to paste that black shape we have created on upstage. So Control Shift V. Now when I said Control Shift V, I have some problem here because it got pasted but it's not visible. And why is it not visible? Because I have a layer on top of it. If I hide it, you will see that the shape exactly got placed where I wanted it, but this top rectangle is hiding it. So don't get perplexed by this step. If you do even after placing it you don't see it, you can be sure. I'll just go few steps back. Control Z, and then Control Z. Okay, fine. So let's just investigate it a little more, because this is the stage where you might end up having a lot of trouble in understanding what is actually going on. So I'll go back to the project state. On the overstage I had that rectangle. I converted that into a movie clip and I want to put that animation where the shape slides towards its right. Okay, and I have copied this shape from the upstage. Now what I want basically here, that this, when my user hovers, when the user hovers the cursor on top of the button, this shape should slide towards its right. On the upstage it should not do anything. So basically normally it should appear like this, but when the user hovers the cursor on top of the button, the overstage has an animation which is going to play. So the overstage has already that rectangle which I converted into a movie clip. We will go inside that and we have two layers here. The layer 1 will be utilized as a mask, which is the same rectangle which was copied, and on the layer 2 I am going to paste that shape. Now notice how the keyframes differ in appearance. This has a black dot and this has a empty dot here, this empty circle here. The empty circle represents that this keyframe does not have anything in it, so it is as good as a blank keyframe. So make sure that layer 2 is selected and say Ctrl Shift V. Now the moment you said Ctrl Shift V, seems as if nothing happened, but actually the shape which we copied from the upstage got pasted here, and we can confirm that by looking at this dot here. And if you want to see it, then you need to hide the layer 1, and exactly how I wanted it to be. Enough said. Now let's just quickly animate it. So I'm going to hide it. For animating a graphic, a vector object or anything in Flash, we need to convert this into a symbol, and here the symbol would be a movie clip. So I'll say F8 on the keyboard to convert this into a symbol. Movie clip is already selected. I'll say okay. I would encourage you to give it proper name, but right now it's fine. I'll say okay. Then we right click on it and then choose create motion tween. After applying motion tween, I just want it to be animated for 10 frames only. I'm going to define the first position is here, and the last position I would just drag it here and match the top point of this graphic with the top right point of this rectangle. Okay, fine. So if I play the animation, this is how it looks. Perfect, no issues, no harm done. At this point of time, if I test my movie, we will end up having some issues. Let's just address those issues. Now on the upstage, both the buttons look just fine. Okay, if I hover on top of it, yeah, it works also fine, no issues, because this was the button earlier created. But if I hover my cursor on top of it, now this happens, which is highly undesirable. This is not what we want, right? Now two problems: the animation is continuously played, problem 1. Problem 2, the button is extending itself. Okay, unlike this one, button is extending itself. So two problems we have at hand, and we will address both of them. The first problem we had, that the animation wouldn't stop. For doing so, what we can do, we can put an action script here which says that this should stop once it reaches a particular frame, and we will do it in just a while. But let's first address problem 1, which is the extension of the button. So what we can do, we can unhide layer 1 and right click on top of it and choose mask. That problem is solved, but we need to also give it equal number of frames, same as the animation beneath it. So we are going to select 10th frame and hit F5, which is the shortcut for introducing a frame or extending a particular keyframe. So F5 is going to extend the first frame till 10th frame. Perfect. Now if I test the movie, we have fairly dealt with problem number 1. The button is not extending anymore. The problem 2 is it's not stopping, and for dealing with that problem, the very simple solution is to select the last frame where you want it to stop and then click on the code snippets. If you can't find the code snippets here, then go to the windows and look for code snippets. Now under the code snippets, you would see it like this. So you need to expand action script, because we are working with the action script 3.0 file. You expand action script, and from the timeline navigation section, select the very first option which says stop at this frame and double click on it. What this does, it will pop out action panel for you and automatically writes the script stop for you. You can also read this commented out text to understand what this particular action does. and check out my other videos on action script to understand more about action scripting. So close the action panel and notice the timeline changed. Now it has the rational layer actions, and on the last frame we have this keyframe automatically created with this A written on top of it, which indicates that this particular keyframe contains some sort of action, which we have already seen in the action panel. So basically, now if I test the movie, I'm going to have the desired button which we wanted. So it is behaving same, about us, projects. Alright, now one little problem I think I have here is the color of this one and this one, and we can very easily fix it by going to the buttons timeline, and on the very first frame in the base layer I think this is the gray color which I should have started with. Now if I test the movie, both has the same color and both are behaving fine. Okay, now you can place the button anyhow you want. You can either place it vertically or horizontally. Okay, in this case I think the size of the button is not matching, so I'll just place it here and then test the movie. So it's a very smooth transition which we get here. Okay, that would be all for this tutorial, and please do your things, like the video and subscribe. That really helps me. Thank you so much.